Has anyone else received a strange email or a text message recently? Something telling you to click on an odd link? If you click on it, or if someone you know clicks on it, they're never the same afterwards. I'm guessing it's a little bit like when people get addicted to crystal meth. Suddenly, their brains are flooded with so many endorphins and feel-good hormones that nothing ever feels okay again except for that sensation. And suddenly that's all they want, all the time. I haven't watched it yet, but my wife did. And now she's not herself anymore. I don't know how else to explain it. I came home from work early last week and she was sitting on the couch staring at the television screen. I didn't pay attention to what she was watching at the time. "Hey, Alina," I said, setting my work bag down on the bench by the door. Usually she would pause what she was watching to get up and greet me. Or at least she would say hello. But this time she stayed silent, and I wondered if I had done something inadvertently to upset her. "How was your day?" I tried next, attempting to smile. She didn't say anything, instead just continuing to stare straight ahead, looking at the television screen with a dopey expression on her face. Okay, I sighed and went to the back room where I had a laptop set up for writing. If she was going to give me the silent treatment, I could give it back to her double, I thought bitterly. I sat down and opened a document, then began typing, pressing the keys louder and harder than necessary. After working on my project for a while, I went back out to the living room, hoping to make peace. But Alina was still wrapped up in whatever show she was watching, completely ignoring me. Her earbuds were cordless, so I assumed she had them in and was listening to the television using them, since there was no sound coming from the glowing screen. It faced away from me and I refused to look at it, more out of principle now than anything else. I waved my hand in front of her face, jokingly at first, then with more and more annoyance, thinking surely that would snap her out of it and she would talk to me. But she didn't. Ever since Alina's mom had passed away, she was looking for various routes of escape, ways to ignore the pain. It was never anything too bad. There was a bit of weed and drinking at the start, but then she found other methods of distraction. Video games and TikTok, YouTube and podcasts. Those things became like another world to her, where she could slip away and pretend like nothing else existed. When I tried to break her out of those periods of hyperfixation, she would stubbornly ignore me, similar to how she was acting now, especially when she was feeling really down or if I had done something to upset her. Why was she being like this again? I wondered to myself. Had I forgotten her birthday or anniversary? I mentally checked the calendar, and no, that wasn't it. Had I been neglecting my household chores? Had I forgotten to pick up dinner or done something else wrong? Thinking back over my recent actions, I couldn't think of anything. There was no reason for her to be acting this way. So I went to the kitchen and made myself a frozen pizza for dinner, telling her there was some left for her if she wanted it, as I took a plate to the back room with me. Her silence followed after me, like a cold, lonely breeze. I watched YouTube videos and ate the frost-burnt, overcooked pizza, feeling even more bitter than before. That night, I went to bed upset. I tossed and turned for most of the night, getting little sleep. The bed usually felt much warmer, but that night I just couldn't get comfortable. The following day, I got up early to leave for the airport. I had a work trip and would be gone for a few days. Normally, Alina would have driven me, but she was still sitting in front of the television, ignoring me. "Have you been up watching TV all night?" I asked, putting on my shoes. She didn't respond. Part of me really wanted to sit down next to her and take a minute to try again to communicate with her. But my flight was leaving soon, and I needed to leave. I didn't have time for stupid arguments, especially when it wasn't me who was at fault. "Okay, I'm going," I said. "I'll see you in a few days." She did not turn her head to look, as I closed the door behind me and locked it, sealing her inside with the glowing screen in the darkness. My trip was extended by 2 days longer than expected, and I didn't get home until yesterday. When I opened the door and entered the living room, I was in for a shock. I dropped my bags to the floor, my breath escaping my lungs with a soft gasp. "Alina?" She had not moved. It had been almost a week, and she was in the exact same place as before. If she had gotten up to eat or drink, there was no indication of it. I went over to her on the couch, my eyes running up and down the length of her, taking in the horrifying details. Her cheeks were sunken in, her eyes rimmed with dark circles like a raccoon. The t-shirt she was wearing was the same one she'd had on when I left, but now I could see her ribs, showing through the white sweat-stained fabric. Alina's mousy brown hair was matted and flattened at the back from being pressed against the cushions, and her lips were dry, cracked, and bleeding. With her mouth hanging agape, I could see that she had somehow lost the majority of her teeth, which were lying bloody on the floor by her feet. "Alina?" I said again, reaching to pull her earbuds out so she could hear me better. When I reached forward to grab them, my hand brushed against her hair and a clump of it fell out immediately. And then another large piece came loose and tore off after that. The screen was still glowing brightly behind me. Somehow it didn't even occur to me that there could be something wrong with what she was watching. That something on the screen could be causing what was happening to her. I thought she was having a mental break of some kind. Scared for her well-being at this point, I did the one thing I hoped I would never have to do. I called 911 and told them to send an ambulance. When the paramedics arrived, I answered the front door of the apartment and let them in. "She's just in here," I said, leading them into the living room. "It looks like she hasn't eaten since I left for my trip a week ago. She needs to see a doctor." I froze in place, completely stunned when I saw Alina was now sitting upright on the couch, looking healthy despite the missing clump of hair on the right side of her head, her sunken cheekbones and cracked, bleeding lips. She hid all of those things with a smile, and the glow from the television changed in an instant to cast her face in a luminous glow which made her look healthy and even beautiful again. "She looks fine to me," the taller paramedic of the two said. He had blonde hair and a handsome face, and he walked over to inspect her more closely. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Your boyfriend here called 911. "Husband," I interjected. "I'm her husband, and she's not okay. She wasn't even responding before. I don't know what's going on, but she didn't look like this a few minutes ago." The other paramedic grabbed my arm a little roughly and led me outside the apartment. "What happened to her hair?" he asked when we were outside. "It looks like someone pulled it out." "That was me," I said, then immediately bit my tongue. I just brushed my hand against it and suddenly a whole clump of her hair fell out. She's lost a ton of weight since I left. Do you think she might have cancer?" "I'm more worried about you," the paramedic said. "You look awful. Have you been drinking at all tonight? Doing any drugs?" "No," I practically screamed at him. "Why would you ask me that?" "Sir, most people don't call 911 when their wife isn't speaking to them. You're very worked up right now. I'm just worried you're going to do something you'll regret later. Do you have somewhere else you can go? Some place you can spend the night? I don't feel comfortable leaving you two alone here. Given what you said, I won't get the police involved as long as you find somewhere else to go tonight. I'm worried this is more of a domestic argument than a medical issue." I argued with him a little while longer, but it was pointless. He wouldn't budge, only saying the police would be called if I didn't leave, hinting that my statement to him would be grounds to serve the night in jail. Eventually, I got in my car and left with just the clothes on my back, driving to a friend's house to spend the night. Luckily, Dave didn't ask any questions, since I was in no state to explain. As I tried to sleep that night on Dave's couch, I found it difficult to think of anything but Alina back at the apartment. Still staring at that television screen, probably. More teeth falling out and more clumps of hair dropping from her head as her brain rotted inside her skull. The glow of the TV screen casting her face in green light and making her look like a zombie. Wait. That was it. The television. That was when I realized it was the thing on the television screen that was making her act so strangely. The odd glow it had cast on her face to make her appear normal when the paramedics were there. Not to mention the fact that all of this had started that night when I came home from work to find her staring at the screen, which was hooked up to our laptop. Whatever she was watching, it was changing her. And not for the better. If not for something I saw in here a little while back, I might not have made the connection. But after putting two and two together, I knew it had to be so. My wife was the unwitting victim of a deadly viral video. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought I'd encounter it myself. A YouTube video that turns your mind into a husk, filling it with only one purpose: spread the virus. I drove back to the apartment shortly after that realization. The sky was overcast and there was a cold wind blowing in that made me suspect we were going to receive rain soon. When I parked outside, I saw the ambulance was still parked by the door, in the same place where it was when I left. Pulling the collar of my coat tighter around my neck, I left my car with a sinking feeling in my gut. A chill ran up my spine as I rode the elevator up to the 3rd floor, getting off and approaching the apartment on wobbly legs. As I pushed open the door, a strong, coppery smell hit my nose immediately. My heart began to tick faster as I took a few shaky steps through the entry hall and into the living room. The 2 paramedics from the day before were sitting cross-legged in front of the television screen, like children watching Saturday morning cartoons. Except their eyes were bleeding, their smiling, gap-toothed mouths shedding teeth which fell to the floor occasionally, making little clinking sounds. Their faces were bathed in the glowing light of the television screen, and they didn't even seem to notice me as I carefully entered the room, avoiding looking at the TV at all costs. Alina was lying on the couch with her head turned towards the screen. I wondered if she was too weak to even sit up now, and maybe that's why she had finally changed her position. Part of me wanted to step in front of the television, blocking her view of it, or better off, turn it off entirely. But another part of me said that would be a very bad idea. She looked like she was doped up. I had seen YouTube videos of people receiving naloxone after ODing on opioids. The videos were mostly taken in the ER, and the people receiving the opioid reversal drug reacted violently when their high was taken away. Even though doctors and nurses were trying to save them, these people attacked the hospital staff around them, trying to kill them. I wondered if Alina and the 2 paramedics would react the same way if I turned off the television. Would they try to kill me? Or would they hold me down and make me watch? My eyes drifted over to the faces of the 2 paramedics. One of them had glasses, and the reflection showed the flickering images on screen. And I made the mistake of focusing on those images. For just an instant. At least, in my mind, it felt like an instant. When I came to my senses, I realized the light in the room had shifted. The shadows were now cast in a different direction. It was sunny outside, no longer overcast. I looked down to check the time and saw 3 of my teeth were on the floor at my feet, looking up at me and smiling. The blood sprinkled on them made them look giddy and excited as they laughed. "Watch it some more," the chipped front tooth said. "Don't stop. Don't ever stop," the molar beside it joined in. "The real thing's so much better than a reflection. And you've only seen a glimpse. Join them. Sit. Watch. Forever." I almost did. But then my wits returned again, thankfully. Whatever dose of the viral video I'd received was not enough for it to take over my mind instantly. But it was close. There's no way to resist it. I can feel myself giving in. I can feel it taking over. I will join them in a moment. As scared as I am of what will happen to me, of what I'll lose, I know I have no choice. But I have just enough strength left in me to get this out there. To share this with all of you. It's important that you know. Don't watch the viral video. Become a channel member today for early access, bonus videos, and special emojis only available to members. Check out the description below or click the join button for more info. If you'd like another way to help support the channel, please consider joining my Patreon page at patreon.com/Jordan Grupe Horror. As a patron, you'll get access to bonus videos and content. You'll be credited at the end of every video going forward, and if you decide to stay for 3 months, I'll name a character after you which will be featured in a Hollow's End story. Links to join the Patreon are in the description. Thanks everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, and comment to help the channel continue to grow, and see you again next time at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you have a great night.